Communications.
The next item, or the first item under communications, is from the Port of Newport, and it's an update on the international terminal.
Spencer?
Sure. Kevin Greenwood, General Manager of the Port of Newport, will give an update on the efforts to fully develop the Newport International Terminal, and we also have the Chair of the Port with us tonight as well. So I'll turn it over to the Port for the presentation.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity. I think I first got the request from Councilor Sawyer to give the presentation. I've made this a number of times here in the city, and I think by the time this project is done, I will have given the presentation probably 20 times. So I appreciate your patience. I try to incorporate new information based on any questions or feedback that I get from you and anybody else in the audience. So really appreciate this opportunity. This project's been 10 years in the making, and just wanted to really show what the long-term ramifications of this project. I've also truncated this presentation quite a bit, since a lot of the information you do already know. But I do want to just make a quick note about Newport being one of 3 deep draft ports in Oregon, along with Astoria and Coos Bay. We know about the national headquarters of the Marine Operations Center. That's not just of the Pacific. That's for the entire United States. There's significant annual core dredging here, and we're near equal distance between Seattle, Tacoma, Oakland, San Francisco. I will come back to that point. The shipping facility was awarded a U.S. Department of Transportation Tiger Grant and classified this as a rural national priority. And as you know, we're also, Newport and this part of the coast is also finalists for the U.S. Department of Energy, the Wave Facility Project at Oregon State University. And of course, we're the top commercial fishing port on the West Coast. So the point of this slide is really just to show the federal impact that Newport has, and how this is going to fit in as a national priority. The terminal itself is, as you know, was completed following a full environmental remediation in 2014. That was a $28 million project, $15 million of which were approved by the taxpayers in Newport, and the balance was done through loans. We are really trying to get to market this facility to help pay for the debt service on this project. It's relatively close to I-5. We're about 70 miles from I-5. This is also a very unique project in that it's a public facility, a public wharf facility. Most of the marine front wharfs on the Oregon coast are either leased by a port or a city or a county to a private entity. And that entity has 100% control over the actions. Anybody can come and utilize this facility. And I think that makes this a very unique facility, not only in Oregon, but really on the Northwest coast. Also, this facility will continue to serve the fishing fleet. We want to make that very clear that with any kind of shipping that's going on out of Newport, we're going to do everything we can to make sure that the state's top fleet continues to provide or receive the services from the port, and I think that's really important to know. So we've got 2 berths. Berth number 1 is 525 feet long, 35 feet deep. We finished that last year. We also did significant mitigation as part of that deepening behind the aquarium. And so we'll be actually able to serve vessels up to 640 feet at that site. The second berth on the east side is a little smaller, a little shorter, but can still provide access for vessels. By the way, this is not an actual picture of the terminal. It was a clean graphic that shows the general representation. Also, what's unique about this facility is it's only 30 to 45 minutes out to the ocean. And most of the, I think it's about, an hour and 45 to to Toledo, and Coos Bay is about the same distance. So what is the need? Why are we here tonight? So since 2013, the Port has fielded inquiries from a wide variety of manufacturers and agricultural producers about shipping a wide range of products from the international terminal. On our website, we have a huge list of letters of support from 12 private businesses, 11 trade associations, and 3 letters of commitment from businesses that are ready to get to work here in Newport. Our target market is going to be small container barges and handy-sized vessels, and the small container barges are really a great opportunity with the issues at the Port of Portland and the Terminal 6 closure. I think that's been one of the reasons why we've fielded a lot more inquiries about the ability to do barging. There's a lot of case studies just here in Lincoln County, and not only from an exporting perspective, but from an importing. David Gomberg has indicated that he's having difficulty bringing his kite products into Oregon because of the closure of Terminal 6. So that's really going to be our main market that we're going to be hitting. What we've also found as far as the log exports, because that's an area that there's been a lot of questions and concerns about. At this point, with the American dollar being as strong as it is, we're finding that the domestic markets or domestic mills are actually outbidding the foreign markets for the privately held timber. And I think that's a critical component. Is it always going to be that way? Perhaps not. So I think what's really important about this facility is the fact that it's a multi-product, multi-commodity facility, and I think that's just going to help the port and ultimately the community be a little bit more sustainable through peaks and valleys. Even Rogue, I put Rogue up there, they actually ship six to eight containers through Oakland, San Francisco. So even local products like Rogue would be able to utilize this facility. And there's also actually a picture of the type of barge right there. Mm-hmm. That's about 400 feet long and 100 feet wide is the general dimensions of that. So what's the solution? So we're looking at the current conditions out there at McLean Point right now. I know you are all very familiar with this area. The 9-acre site that's owned by the Port of Newport is right there with the large black line around it. It's right next to the Hall property, which is a 30-acre site privately owned, currently leased by the Port. Our plan is once this project hits the ground and we're actually building it to get out of the lease with the Halls, and they've got some really exciting plans separate from what we're doing to add even more value to this project. It's about 1,700 feet from the actual terminal, and we will be removing about 40,000 cubic yards of organic, clean, organic but unbuildable material. So it's clean material, but it's unbuildable. And so we will be responsible for finding a final resting place for that. So Tim, if you've got any great ideas, give me a call afterwards. We've also will be doing a little bit of wetland mitigation. We pulled building permits for this project on December 30th. Thank you to Tim and Derek and their staff. And ultimately, we hope to see utilities brought out to this site using the recently adopted McLean Point Urban Renewal Program. So this is a concept of what the site could look like. Don't hold me to this. This is used just to kind of give an image of what the site would look like. And again, I want to be very specific that this 9-acre site is where our $6.5 million is going to build. That's going into building that site, this 9-acre site. So this is What's another thing about this project that we've heard a little bit about is queuing along Bay Boulevard if the lot's not open. Where do the trucks go? We, using this plan, will actually just queue them up through here. There's enough room for them to do a 360 and point back. Sorry for you folks that have to look over their shoulder. We're actually going to bring them right down that road, and the trucks can queue up there. We're also going to be doing and installing some wetland mitigation sites. And so you'll notice that there's some little water elements around here. And so those are all approved Army Corps, DSL, actually, those are actually Army Corps approved wetlands. DSL it does not have jurisdiction on the wetlands on this site where we're putting those wetlands. So the other thing that's really nice about this, and I mentioned earlier, is the fact that there's the potential for increased warehousing. As you may know, Newport and the Central Oregon coast has a huge lack of industrial warehousing. And so this is going to be an opportunity for NOAA, other commercial fishing ventures, even Rogue that is looking to expand warehousing. This brings great opportunity for providing support for those industries that are reliant upon the terminal. Finally, and I won't spend a huge amount of time, and then all this information is on the port's website as well if you're interested in really getting down deep into it. So we're looking at about $6.7 million. That includes some port investment and private investment to date. We've received the $2 million Tiger grant, which is critical. That shows that this is actually a serious project and will serve as the match for the Connect Oregon grant application, which the commission approved and we applied for 2 months ago. There's a 30% match. We're asking for $4 million, so we've got that covered, and few folks will have that significant of a match ready to go. When you look over on the expense side, what we're basically putting in is a parking lot. You'll notice that 50% approximately of this project is in subbase and paving, and then there's some serious site preparation work, including the removal of the 40,000 cubic yards. And we'll continue to look at grants. We don't expect any one funder to take care of this project. We've got a variety of applications. Yeah, absolutely.
I just want
Yep,
to finish reading
sure.
the bottom part. Thanks.
So we've kind of got a shotgun approach for the grant applications. We're going to apply for many at a time, and then, we're not going to be successful with all of them, but we don't want to lose any momentum.
Is any of that expenses or infrastructure coming out of the new urban renewal plan?
No. And I think that's a great clarification. The port realizes that the urban renewal tool is really going to be beneficial down the road and will really spur the development of the Hall property. I think once we get the shipping facility up and running, and right now that property is all off the tax rolls currently, so we should see a pretty good boost relatively quick. And I think long-term, the plan shows that the big one will be the sewer line. And the urban renewal is not going to pay for 100% of that, but I think it's either 40 or 60%, if I recall. So that's down the road. Continuing on, just a phased approach with the project. There's the $27 million for the remediation in 2013, the berth deepening and the mitigation last year. I'm also putting on here the 2016 or the US 20 highway improvements that are expected to be completed this year. We're not paying the $360 million that ODOT is and the feds, but I think it's really critical to show that that highway improvement is going to make truck traffic from the valley down to Newport much safer. And I think that's really important to include this in the project as a partner and as a phased element. There's Phase 4, which is the shipping facility that I've walked you through. And then the subsequent phases are private venture owned by Rondis, Inc. that would be able to take advantage of some of the development with the facility, with the shipping facility. And there's the comment, Councilor Allen, at the bottom regarding the urban renewal district.
Kevin, how did, again, I know Walter has mentioned this to me and others,
Sure.
but the mitigation in Phase 2, that $750,000, how was that paid for again? I know you had some budget-related issues surrounding that, but can you?
Yeah, so when the construction of the $27 million was completed, we had actually about actually closer to $850,000 left over. And so, or I shouldn't say left over, it was earmarked for deepening and mitigation.
Okay.
And so there was a little bit of extra money after the construction was completed, and the commission during the budget process took the balance and put that into a future reserve for repairs to the terminal. So that's been kind of earmarked for future repairs of the terminal. I think that might, okay, here's our readiness to proceed. So we're really going to be getting on this next winter. So we won't hear from Connect Oregon until late fall, and we wouldn't actually be able to start utilizing that money until October of 2016. And that's not the best time to start digging around in the dirt. So we're really looking at this project taking off in the first quarter, second quarter of 2017, weather related, and the project finishing up at the end of third quarter. And so I think it's reasonable, assuming that this timeline is met, that product could be shipped out of here in the winter of 17-18. So that's the purpose of this slide.
And Kevin, what's the status right now of the Connect Oregon as far as your position and
Right, so I don't.
viability on that?
Yeah, absolutely, that's a great question. They have not, from what I've heard, I don't believe they've ranked the applications yet. I believe that's under a state agency review with Oregon Business and ODOT at this point. And so the subcommittee presentations that I'll be making really don't kick off until spring of this year.
And the Tiger grant that you got as a match, what happened to that if, for whatever reason, you didn't get the Connect Oregon? Would that still be in place, or would that go away because it was meant for a
We
match?
would have 2 years to execute an agreement on the Tiger grant. So basically what that means is that we have 2 years to pull together a financing package to get this project complete. US DOT did make it very clear that they were not interested in funding a partial project. And so they are looking for those additional funds before they would release their portion.
Got it.
I have one question. In possible things to ship out, has the grass company, Ryegrass in the valley, contacted you in any way?
What's the name of the?
The ryegrass, the grass.
We do, yes, from the.
Grass seeds.
We do, we have a letter from the Trade Association of the grass producers. We do have that, and there is another company that we do have an individual letter of support from.
And were they affected by the shutdown of the Portland?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, I
Yeah.
wondered if they shipped mostly out of Portland. Okay.
Yep, Bosco.
Yeah,
Bosco's probably the biggest player in that field, and so currently they're actually trucking to Seattle, Tacoma.
huh,
And so they're definitely interested. We did not get a letter of support from Bosco quite yet. I'm hoping to get some one-on-one time with them and show them a little bit more of the details of the project.
oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Just generally, when you, separate from this expansion, since I got you here, your increased trucking activity, I know there's been some delay for a number of reasons, but when do you anticipate a kind of movement forward in getting industry in place and increased trucking activity, which, as you know, was an issue of concern for many folks, and The reason I ask is I know that, Tim, we're probably looking at that intersection improvement. Is that next year? I know that's been kind of delayed, but is that next summer we're going to be starting that down at that T intersection?
Yeah, ideally, we actually got an email giving us approval for the loan contract to be signed today.
Okay.
And so our anticipation is to bid it this spring and be under construction this summer.
So I guess from timing purposes, do you anticipate the increased trucking activity, if it does move forward, to probably not be right when we're starting that construction on the T intersection? Or do you actually think that's going to perhaps be after we finish the work on
And
that?
what was the month of that?
I don't have a specific date.
Or quarter?
As soon as I get
Yeah.
the funding approved, I would be willing to take the thing to bid, but our contract documents are almost complete, so I would guess they would start construction in June.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we wouldn't be able to access grant funds until October, and I don't think we would be ready to begin the shipping until winter of 17-18.
Okay, I was thinking about if there's anything else happening that might be, T-VINs, and I know there's some other.
You'll be under
I'm talking about some
construction,
other
right?
stuff that might be in play.
Through, well, I think through, first and second quarter, there could be construction traffic, absolutely.
Yeah, you'll have a lot more traffic from construction than you ever will from shipping.
You're absolutely right. In
Right.
fact, and probably removing the 40,000 yards is going to be a
Yeah.
big impact as
We need to
well.
meet.
Right.
Yeah. So if you've got a space a little bit closer,
Well, give me a call. I think we were trying to, remember with the task force, we were trying to work out the timing of all that because things could get pretty congested if things were all happening at once, that's all.
well, I think it'll be really critical for the port to adequately communicate once we start having a real project and we designated by a successful Connect Oregon grant, cross your fingers, I think that's when we're really going to work in earnest with the city and citizens to make sure that we adequately communicate what's going to be going on.
Okay.
So I'm sure we'll be working with Spencer and his staff to adequately communicate that.
Okay.
Anything else on the timeline or? So I think that's it. Again, I appreciate the opportunity. If there's any other general questions or things that I could do to make this presentation better, because I'll be doing it several more times, feedback is always a good thing.
I have a question, and it's from a non-seafaring person. So you said the barge was 100 feet wide.
Correct.
So how wide is that channel between the two jetties?
Oh, I think was it 17? I think it's 1,700 feet, I believe,
Okay.
from jetty to jetty.
I can't tell. I can't
Yeah.
measure that kind of stuff. So I was going 100
It's kind of
feet.
out of
Okay,
perspective when
all
you're up
right.
on the bridge.
Okay,
But-
thanks.
Yes,
Just
Dean.
a couple of comments. Kevin gave this presentation at the Council of Government meeting, and there was a Lynn County Commissioner there, and he just about fell out of his chair. He was so excited. There are shipping containers of straw sitting in the valley.
Right.
Just waiting to go, and they're rotting. The problem for the farmers in Lynn, in the Central Valley is they have to ship it further, and it costs more money. So with the Port of Portland being gone. So this is, to me, this is a wonderful chance for the port and Newport to really move into the 22nd century, as it were. I know that, he talked about rogue beer. My son taught in China about 3 years ago in it's a town called Nanning. It's in south central China. And he had to look all over to find rogue beer, but he found it. So they get it in China. But for the rogue has to ship to Oakland before it can go out, where it used to go right out of Portland. So then it costs more money and more time to get the beer to China. So we really need to expedite that for the Chinese.
Absolutely.
And then the
A lot
Highway
of
20
examples like that.
it's- What's really cool for the port right now, all this stuff is kind of coming together time-wise, especially with Highway 20 being finished, hopefully, that it will cut down the time for trucks to get from the valley to here by at least 20 minutes. So that drops their time to get it here, drops their cost, makes the Port of Newport more in a good position to be here. Plus, the Port of Toledo was thrown into with the boatyard. So I think all these things are kind of coming together, even though they're, I don't know who we can say put all this grand design together, but it's all kind of coming together, and I think it's just going to be huge for this port and our community and all our businesses, because although that product will be coming here, it'll be going out and coming back in, and it's just going to be wonderful for this community.
Well, I think it's just a reflection on the community. I mean, this is just one other element that's going to round out what Newport is. With the education and the science and the research, along with the traditional resource industries, this is just going to round out the economic development opportunities here in Yaquina Bay. And the other thing, too, that Walter wrote down here for me is that really the carbon emissions is greatly reduced once those trucks move their product onto the barge. It's a much cleaner way to move product. So I think by the time material either comes up from Los Angeles, whether it's waste paper for GP, it's the cleanest way to move product.
There's a question from the audience. Yes.
Yeah, I had a question for Kevin, and it's kind of concerning what Dean just brought up here. Is there any chance that any shipping will happen before this funding comes for this project to develop that 9 acres there? Is there any chance of allowing some people to come in and actually directly load product on the barges and ship it out again?
Yeah.
Before that timeline?
Well, you bring up a good point, Rex, because I mean, really, short of the heavy equipment, the Laternos, the 988s, and the heavy equipment, that's the one, if there was one remaining barrier to entry to the project, it's really that heavy equipment. And so you will, if you go to our website, you'll notice that we have a lease option with Teven Brothers. And so I would direct you to take a look at that. One of the great advantages of working with Teven, of course, they're known for the log processing, but when Walter and I went up to their Rainier facility, the same equipment that they use to move the logs actually moves other break bulk materials. So they actually had that Sauce Brothers barge, the 400 by 100, was actually at the Teven dock in Rainier and getting loaded up with pallets of building materials or pallets of generators, that sort of thing. So, so there is the potential for that, but the one thing that we don't have on site until Teven executes the lease option is the heavy equipment. So, you know, we could, you know, that would make a reasonable effort to try to talk to some stevedores to see what is available there, but we're at 35 feet. We've got limited public access that could utilize some smaller opportunities, and there's nothing stopping anybody from utilizing this facility today.
Thank you.
Is
Rex?
there a chance that somebody who's interested in shipping could bring in their own container-sized forklift to load containers? You know, if they brought their own equipment in to do that and start shipping out of here?
Absolutely. We're willing to talk to anybody that is interested in utilizing the facility. I think we're all very open to looking at it. It's a public facility. So absolutely, I think that's, if you know of anybody, my name and phone number are up on the slide, and I'll give you a stack of business cards before we take off.
Oh,
Thanks, Rex.
You have to give Rex a commission.
right.
Exactly, finder's fee.
He only gets 3%.
Well, thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Walter.
Thank you for the opportunity. Walter,
Yeah.
do you have any?
Just thank you for your support, and the commission is fully behind this project, and we've been working very hard on it, and we're looking forward to getting it done. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Great job.
Thank you.